Hello, this is the first time I'm doing something like this, and will probably be extremely scuffed. This could be a long or quick guide on Ironroot depending on how long it takes me to explain things. I'll also provide examples in post-edit if necessary. It's generally a guide for do miss. 2v2 Hellgates may vary from this guide with its own different environment. I'll go over the build first and then go more in depth with each ability later on. I'm also sorry if my mic quality isn't great as well. For Ironroot, you go Q1, W3, and then you have your standard E ability with passive 1. Helmet, you go Graveguard Helmet with ability 3, passive 1. Your armor, you go Purity Robe with ability 3, passive 3. Shoes, you can go any leather shoes, and you go Refreshing Sprint with passive 4. And then you go Mist Collar for your offhand, and Brazilian Cape for your cape. For pots, I only bring two types of pots. I bring energy potions. You will only really use this for against healer DPS teams, and then everything else you use resist potions. For food, I bring Avalonian pork omelets, 0.2 preferably. Another option is you can bring cleansing potions for stuff like one-shots, but generally if I need a cleanse, I would just swap to W4 on my staff. Starting things off with Q stacks. Normally before we get into a fight, I like to stack my DPS twice, and then stack myself twice. And then you can immediately stack both of you into 3 stacks as soon as you get into fight. It also plays into your protection of nature, your W. You can Q stack both of you twice, and then whoever their DPS focuses, you can just W into Q, and they will have 3 stacks for the full duration of your W. The link also plays into this as well, where you want to have 2 stacks on both of you, and then you link, first link, and then Q stacks both of you again, and then link into yourself again. All of these mechanics also play into the passive, where you want to upkeep as much as possible, where every 4 spell casts increases your healing by 20%. So you can see in the top left where it's going up every time I cast. One other thing to note as well is that your E actually counts as cast as well, so even if you don't link, you can use it to get an extra cast on your passive. And one more thing, if you're spacing properly against their DPS and they're not focusing you, you want to keep yourself at 2 stacks as much as possible. So then when your DPS needs healing, you have 2 stacks. And then you can immediately link, and they will get the full 3 stack healing as well. One more thing I forgot to add is nature healing ticks. Nature healing ticks are much weaker than that of holy healing. So if you want upkeep whoever's HP, you have to use your W, because nature healing ticks alone aren't enough to out heal the enemy opponent's damage. So you have to pair it up with protection of nature to upkeep the healing. Now I'll go into red linking. Red linking is when you link one of your allies to the enemy. You only want to do ally and enemy because this is the only useful one, where you redirect 50% of the healing received from the enemy to the ally. So this is effectively a 50% healing cut on the person that you cast it on. Generally, you only use this when you have the pressure. If you are low on HP or your DPS is low on HP, you want a healing link first. Always green link first, and then if you're up on pressure and both you and the DPS are healthy, you can red link the DPS and their DPS, or whoever your DPS is focusing, and it'll put extreme amount of pressure on the opponent's healer. Graveguard helmet is your panic button or your burst healing option. You use it when you or your DPS are low on HP. If you're not low on HP, you can just use it on your DPS by itself. But if you are low HP, you have to ally link with your DPS and yourself, and then use the helmet to heal yourself. You generally do not want to use it without pairing your either Protection of Nature or hitting one of your passives. So if you can, ideally both would be optimal. So you wanna get rid of your Q stacks, and then right when you hit the passive, you have Link and W, and you can helmet immediately, and you get a huge amount of healing from it. In terms of purity robe usages, you have two options, defensive and aggressive. You want to prioritize defensive first if you are under pressure from their DPS or whatever you're against. You bop them away, and then they can't touch you. Aggressive is when both you and the DPS are healthy. You can look for a chance to bop their healer away to stop them from being able to heal their DPS, so your DPS can heal. Oh no, your DPS can kill. For boots, because you're on refreshing sprint and it lowers your cooldown by 33% for 5 seconds. You want to use this when your W and your E are down ideally. Anything such as your purity robe and your helmet is also added bonus to get on low cooldown as well. Generally, because after you use both your W and your E and your robe, you won't have any defensive lefts. And if you don't have any defensive lefts, you can use your boots as a fourth defensive to get away from their DPS, but also giving cooldown reduction to the rest of your abilities. For pots, likewise, energy pots for healer DPS teams, and then everything else you want to be on resist. And then sometimes you want to be on cleanse heal for cleansing any CCs for things such as one shot. For energy potion, this is your only mana source, and you're running energy passive on your purity robe, so you can lower the energy cost. It gives like 50% instantly, and then you get another like 30% over the 7 seconds. This is not purgeable, by the way. While this is happening for the 7 seconds, you also get 23% extra cooldown rate. So this also ties into the usage of your refreshing sprint as well. So after you've used everything, your W, your E, your refreshing sprint, and your robe, I would say maybe like 1/3 of your mana bar left. You use the energy potion, you'll get to max mana, and then you'll also have the 23% cooldown rate for 7 seconds for all of those abilities on cooldown. All of these guidelines aren't really obsolete and are just the meat to playing Ironroot successfully. You then also have to take into account of different matchups, which I won't cover in this video as it would make it even longer. If you do want to see more though, I would advise looking at my Ironroot videos for general gameplay, but don't take it as perfect gameplay as I do make mistakes from time to time. I think one of the biggest factors as well to playing Ironroot is having a DPS that understands when you need to kite. As unlike Holy, sometimes you have to reset as you can't upkeep healing. That's why you see a lot of swords being played with Ironroot, because sword stacks allow them to kite and disengage easily. But personally, I think Ironroot is the strongest healing option, and dual miss if played right at least. Otherwise, if you found the guide useful, please